Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Java interfaces, the way we can look at how we can group information as well as ascribe properties to things as a group, ascribe methods to things using a structure to hold that all together. So when we're talking about the Java interface, it's a way of actually organizing information so we can have lots of things to be able to do the same kind of stuff or be able to organize information. The first thing we have to look at is when we're talking about interfaces, the first thing we want to know is identify that an interface has method headers only. There's no blocks of code inside a Java interface. It's just the headers. So when you see a public interface in Java, you're going to see, oh, here's the name of the interface, and then a list of the methods with semicolons at the end, no code going in between it other than just the name and the return type, any parameters that they need. It's really pretty basic, and the reason being is because when I'm talking about interface, I'm talking about making a way so I can have many different things that do the same thing but their own specific way. So for the example I gave the other day in class, I have a tissue can flap and a rag can flap, and they flap differently. This is obviously a little bit noisier, this one's a bit thicker and heavier, and then I also have a paper can flap, and this doesn't flap so well. And then humans, we can flap, but we don't flap very well. We can't fly, but a bird, they can flap and they fly. So again, we have just the headers only, the code of the implementation is handled by the classes that implement that interface. Interfaces need to be public. A public interface is because of the fact we're actually going to be using this information, it's going to be all grouped together, and they're going to be called externally automatically. And so an interface automatically is going to be public based when you're working on that. So all your interfaces are going to be public. We have 0 to n methods inside an interface. I say 0 because we can have an interface that has absolutely 0 methods. We're just using it to hold things together for purposes of structure, organization, or to the fact that we want to do something with it as an identity type thing. We also have the idea that able or able is the most common suffix when we're talking about an interface because you're able to do that. It's something you can do. And that's where that n comes into play, is what you can do. The things you can do, those n methods, those actions you can perform, the verbs you're good at. Again, looking at that deeper knowledge we have with using nouns and verbs for looking at object-oriented programming. Those are things you can do. Those methods you do, the way you do them, they're on your own. You have your own code for it, but your neighbor, your other objects that do it, they do it in their way, and it's all good to go. We can also do that identity right here. So it's group-based organization. I want to group all these types of things together. And so they're all different things, but they all want to go in the same category, like an array list or an array, and structure, put them together as a thing to work with. But they're very different, but they want to be able to have that same grouping capability. And so I want to put them in the same thing, a holder, a structure, like an array or array list or any of the other collection types. And I do that by having an interface where they implement that interface. They don't have to have any methods or anything structured in common. They simply can adopt that protocol. They conform to the interface. They implement the reality of that. And as such, I can now put them all on that same list, and I can do stuff with them or work with them together as an entity. It's a great way to structure how I organize and hold code together. The keyword we have, again, I've said this a few times, is the keyword implements. That's how we can actually work with interfaces. It goes in the class header, so you have your public class, extends, if anything, and then implements the interfaces that you're working with. And you can have anywhere from 0 to n interfaces as well. You have infinite interfaces you can put on there. So I can have 5 interfaces, 3 interfaces, 2 interfaces, 0, that's all good. But I can have many interfaces, and I just separate them by commas between each one. And because interfaces themselves are all public-based, if I have a base class, a parent class, if it implements the interface, all the child classes that are below it also implement that same interface. And it makes it so I can have a really good way to reuse code and have it so I can have customization and overriding code. So it's like, oh, I want to do this special interface method that my parent does, but I want to customize it just for me. I can do super.method name and then customize that value and return that new result because I have the ability to implement that interface, because I automatically implement interface. And I can call super.dot to go reach up above and grab that information, but I can also implement in a new custom way for myself and my subclasses that will work below me. And that's a great way to work with interfaces. Hope this is helpful. Cheers and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.